mother flippin' nature. Anyways, I just finished the Halloween episode, filming it anyway, and I just realized it was such a beautiful night. And living in Labrador, you're not going to get many nights like this left. It's going to snow pretty much any second now. So I wanted to have a fireside chat with you, just have a little chat, you know. I was out here feeling kind of lonely, actually. My wife's gone to bed. I was out storyboarding future episodes. I'm always about like 10 episodes ahead, coming up with new characters and new designs based on that. And this one's definitely going to have a Halloween theme, and it's probably going to be the darkest character yet. The show, I think, is going to take a dark turn because we're into that kind of like middle chapter, and that seems to be like the cliche thing to do. But I've always been a horror guy, and if you can't tell, I'm a kind of a frustrated filmmaker with zero budget, minimal talent. But I got drive. I definitely have drive. And I also have smelly markers, and I find that whenever I'm down or running out of ideas, oh, you just pop one of these bad boys open and smell. That sucks. I can't smell. I also have a sore throat, so this does not bode well. Anyways, that was actually something that also sucked in the new episode too. Trying to do those voices, not easy. Anyways, let's just hang out. I haven't been with you guys in a while. What are we listening to? This is not a metal episode here tonight because it's Halloween and it's about horror movies and monster movies, and that really is my first love. That said, we're listening to this soundtrack right here. That's right, Leatherface. And Heavy Metallurgy kind of got me into this the other night because Darcy Six Strings brought up Lost Rocket, and yeah, when this movie first came out, I went absolutely batshit insane because it was a combination of my two favorite things, Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well as heavy metal. Texas 3 has not aged well for me. Like, I'm a huge fan of Part 2, and Part 1 is a perfect film, 74. But this Part 3 has its moments. It's kind of like an action survivalist film. It's good, but, you know, let's be real here. And after that, it sucked ever since. But anyways, yeah, there's some good stuff on here, right? You know, Bored, Death Angel. You know, there was a whole bunch of things that I remember like being a kid and being really into this stuff. And when this was released in about 89, I was like 13 years old. So this was right up my alley. And the funny thing about Texas Chainsaw 3 is that there was a rumor that they actually used dead bodies to cut up, you know, for the gore scenes. At 13, you believe this bullshit, you know what I mean? And it gives that film that extra mileage with you and a sense of importance for some sick, demented way. But I guess I was that kid. Growing up in Wabash in a small mining town, which primary focus was sports. And my mom and dad actually have a drawer full of participation ribbons. Because of me. Yeah, I participated. I wasn't winning anything, but I was heavily into horror. And my first love, the first thing that really kind of made me like laser focus on horror films was an issue of Fangoria back in the day. And Fangoria blew my mind. Like, I was that kid that his locker and bedroom was like full of those like pullouts and cutouts. My student agenda was full of, you know, Tom Savini work, Reardon, you know what I mean, all those special effects artists. I wasn't like a creep. I just loved the art of it, you know what I mean, and had a big influence. So I remember buying my first issue of Fangoria, and I think that might have been around, that might have been around 87. I remember Maximum Overdrive was coming out. I was obsessed with that one too. Anyways, this is a binding. I have every Fangoria from issue 1, well, right up until about 95, 96. I don't even think it was that late, actually. I'm lying. I think maybe around 93, something like that. Remember, like, Addams Family Values and shit was on the cover, and I was like, I'm out. Thanks, man. But these are the original magazines, and they're all bound in here, and I had that kind of done for my kids. So it's like, you know, the first one, and you go through them, and I've got volumes and volumes of this stuff. But this was like my Bible, okay? As you can see, here's more. I just brought a couple out here just for some visual candy to get us into the vibe for Halloween, right? What one's this? Oh yeah, the infamous Videodrome cover. Remember what they, yeah. There's been a couple of these that have been actually banned. Anyways, yeah, you got all sorts of stuff here. I wish I could just go through this with you guys, but anyway, seeing that it's Halloween, a lot of you have reached out to me and they're like, hey, what do you recommend that I watch this year? I really don't know what you have access to, because a lot of times people ask me if the Cliff's video set, are they real VHS? And yeah, they are. I worked in a video store for years, Kelly's Video, and when they closed down, everything, including the computers, was going to be thrown out, and I was like, that is completely unacceptable. It's my inner Indiana Jones. Chicken shit Indiana Jones. But it's like, that belongs in a museum, right? And so I rescued all of it. So I have a pretty, you know, deep VHS collection. That being said, you can get a lot of this stuff online right now. Shudder has some of these things. I checked out Amazon Prime. They have a couple of them as well. I was actually kind of surprised. So, I mean, it's the future. I suppose you can have access to anything. But I do love a VHS format. I love the grain. I love that whole vibe. It's the same thing with records. Everyone's like, you know, you're full of shit. That audiophile thing, it sounds bigger. Maybe I am full of shit. Actually, I am. But I do love that sound. I love the ritual of taking a record out, the smell of it, putting it on the table, hearing those crackles, right? If you're watching this show, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you have no problem with the graininess of VHS. And the fact when it's cleaned up or something too sanitized, it's not good. And let's be real, a lot of these films, they were not meant for 4K treatment, right? It kind of ruins them. Anyways, what do I recommend? I'll get to it. I'm blathering. I'm just having a few sips, man. I'm enjoying the fall. If I want to have a good time and if I want to have a laugh with people, I'm definitely going to recommend Humanoids from the Deep. Sea beasts on the prowl, and they are looking for women to repopulate their species. Sounds horrible, sounds crude, sounds vulgar. Oh yes, it sure is. But it's definitely filmed in Canada, because I recognize a lot of Canadian actors, especially some of the actresses that I recognize from one of the greatest pieces of motion pictures ever recorded. That's a drunk sentence right there. Yeah, check this out. I highly recommend Humanoids from the Deep. If you're really sensitive though, no, actually no. If you're offended by this film, you're an absolute idiot. If you're offended by this film, however, you are not an idiot. Those are absolutely normal reactions. This film is offensive. Not in the sense that it's absolutely gory graphic. Well, there is some pretty graphic moments in this film. This is kind of like one of those incel films. This guy, he really can't relate to women. He is like just completely neutered because of his mother. He's influenced by Psycho, you know, all that shit. The film was actually supposed to be called The Burning, but because the film from '81 with Savini, you know, they had to change the title. But this one, yeah, he lures women back to his house, or his mother's old house, and he has this room that's like covered in asbestos, and he wears a suit and he hangs women up, and then he actually tortures them with a blowtorch, and it is so upsetting. It is so graphic and mean-spirited. There's absolutely nothing funny about this film, except the soundtrack. There's a scene where he's at a bar that kind of made me howl. But yeah, if you're one of those people and you want like dark and grisly, yeah, then I would recommend Don't Go in the House. Has that Maniac vibe. Not a lot of blood, but a whole lot of burning. If you really enjoy high camp and insane gore, I can't emphasize pieces enough. This was a copy. It's a cut copy. I have various versions of this, but this was my first, so I have an emotional attachment to this. When I was a kid, when I first saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this is exactly what I thought Chainsaw Massacre was gonna be. That turned out to be like a really tasteful, like horrific experience, but tasteful. They knew what to show and what not to show. This film is absolute sleaze, and I'm floored. I'm madly in love with it. It is absolute trash. The gore, the acting is amazing, and there is a song by some 70s Italian disco group called Cam, and even on the release of their soundtrack, it's not on there. Hanging around. Running around, what are you doing? I can't remember, but it's just one of those songs that just gets into your head and just moves in rent free and never leaves. But the scene in the elevator, that's absolutely outrageous. I think that's actually the scene right there on the back of the box. Oh, Vestron. Actually, I was working at Jumbo Video at the time when I was younger, and I stole this. It's just on the shelves for years, gathering dust. No one was renting it. And I'm like, this is going to be thrown out, and that's how I justified it to myself. And I took it. I took it, and it's mine, and it lives with me. And all the other VHSs that were at Jumbo Video are now in the garbage. So, vindicated. Hey, you want some more? Well, here's some more. You want some absolute sleaze? I have this in the case because it's kind of like worth an awful lot of money. Nightmare. Weird thing about this, Tom Savini's name was attached to it, and he completely renounces it. He says he has nothing to do with it at all. I don't believe that because I've seen pictures of him on the set. Apparently the special effects artist, rumor has it that his girlfriend or something along those lines got greasy with Savini, and anyway, he killed himself or something horrible like that. And yeah, so shit went down. It's totally like an 81 slasher. It's lowbrow. It's a Halloween ripoff. But one thing I love about the film is the mask that's used by the killer. And this, you want to talk about sleaze? Pieces actually seems a little tame compared to the sleaze in this one, especially this version of the release. But the mask is a Don Post mask from 1980, and there was two versions of it. One was the Sheik, which I've been looking for it for my entire life, and I haven't come across it. And the other one is Mr. Cool, which is pretty much blackface of the Sheik without the turban, and they gave him like a goatee. But the mask used in this one is the Sheik, but they ripped the turban off, and it's just his bald head, and it's just incredible. I can't remember the name of the kid that they do at the beginning. They say it introduces like CJ Lewis. I think that's the name. Either way, CJ, we were introduced, but I don't know who or where you went. But yeah, I love these Planet Video big boxes. Here's a movie that I can really recommend with like the straightest of faces. A movie that I really think needs to be watched. It's not graphic, it's not visceral, it's just eerie and it's creepy. And to be honest with you, the movie Final Destination was the last time that I actually enjoyed smoking weed. When I walked out of that film, I remember not getting in the elevator. I refused to get in the car on the way home. I was baked. I think we smoked like 5 joints before we even went into it. It was not a pleasant experience. I also have a phobia of plane crashes, so that beginning was a real bad vibe for me, right? Anyways, this film predates it by many, many years. I don't know if this is 83 or whatnot, but I highly recommend Soul Survivor. And I mentioned like streaming services. I got Amazon Prime the other night because I was just completely finished with Tubi. I love Tubi, but I watched everything on there that I like, and Netflix blows. So anyways, I got Amazon Prime, and I was like, you know what, do you have Soul Survivor on here? Because I don't want to go in the garage and like get the VHS. This is much more convenient, you know, guilty. And Soul Survivor was on there, and man, I could not believe how good this was. Again, like Final Destination, this woman kind of survives a plane crash, and she has survivor's guilt. And it's smarter than Final Destination too, right? Like, she keeps seeing bodies show up all over the place, and these people, like young kids that are just standing there, and they're all victims of like horrific accidents, etc., and like older men. Her survivor's guilt is kind of like, you know, manifesting itself into something, or death has different plans for her and is coming to get her. So definitely this was a film that inspired The Final Destination. Those are the ones I kind of recommend. I do recommend for Halloween. And I hope you have a good one, and I hope you enjoy the new show. Kind of a low-key one, but the bad guys are coming, and the monsters are coming. And for those of you that are kind of wondering, where's Fossack? What are you going to do with it? Where are you going with this show? Trust me, it's coming, but it's this show is expensive, man. It's expensive as, you know, like the miniature props and sets. But, you know, time is the most expensive thing in the world, and I'm doing this all by myself, you know what I mean? So I'm doing it because I want to. I'm not asking for sympathy. I got to get this out of my head. But yeah, anyways, that's that. One final thing, I found it in the garage, and I wanted to share it with you because it reminds me of the holiday season. This looks familiar to you? If you're a Chainsaw Massacre 74 fan, yeah, you know, this is the Poulin super automatic. You have the black electrical tape across from the logo that they had it hit. I'm obsessed with this stuff, and I'm a huge horror collector, and I couldn't find like a Poulin anywhere. And this model in particular that was used in the film, so when I finally did come across it, it was in Vancouver, BC, like forestry museum. I don't know how I came across it. Anyways, I contacted them and I asked them, was it for sale? And they were like, no, it's not for sale. So I was like, you know, never take no for an answer. So I made up some bullshit story about how my grandfather was heavily involved with forestry, and that was the chainsaw that he had. And, you know, I just wanted to have like some sort of monument or display. And I don't know what this organization was or how like deep their pockets were, but they actually sent it to me free of charge. That's scum, I realize. But you know, when you're obsessed, you know what I mean? Life's not worth living unless you're obsessed. And that's something I learned a long time ago. But until then, Halloween's coming. I hope this silly little unplugged episode, you know, finds you well. And we'll see you soon. See you at the movies.